Today's webinar, we will learn more about 3 new regional grant opportunities. Altogether, they will be providing $1.75 million in funds to organizations in our region. And these are extremely timely opportunities with a deadline for these grants fast approaching, and these deadlines are between October 10th and 19th. And we encourage you to apply as soon as possible. To my good friend in Bellevue, Anthony Gill, and to share information on their commercial rent relief grant program. Anthony?
Thank you, Christina, and thanks for having us on this webinar. We're very, very excited to share the details about our commercial rent relief program, which is open now to applications. So first, I do want to give a little bit of background just so that you have a little bit of a basis on how our program was put together and some of the thinking that went into it. So we actually conducted in the spring and early summer a study on commercial lease arrears, back rent, to try to figure out what the situation was with business owners, property managers, and commercial brokers. So this was a multi-pronged effort. We had a consultant brought on board and a full survey that went out to many different stakeholders, and then a number of phone calls and other engagement opportunities with stakeholders to try to get a sense of what the market is experiencing right now. A couple things that we found, this is a very high level, but a couple things that we found. Number one is that the property owners have actually offered some relief to their tenants. So this has come in many different forms, but a majority of property owners have offered some form of relief. It's typically either a lease abatement or a deferral where basically the unpaid rent kind of attaches to the end of the lease rather than at the front end. There have been some other interesting forms of relief where property owners have actually deferred the rent but tried to get something else from the tenant. So for example, paying utility bills or different types of costs that may be considered when you're leasing a space. Another key finding is just that many of these small businesses, even with this relief, are still struggling. And in particular, it seems to be that it's the businesses that are falling between other relief programs. So sometimes these businesses were between the EIDL program, the Paycheck Protection Program, and the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance programs, which offer relief to sole proprietors. So, and it really seemed to be most concentrated in industries like health and wellness, fitness, personal services, so things like barbershops, nail salons, and arts and culture. So really concentrated in particular industries and concentrated particularly among businesses that had trouble accessing other forms of relief. And next slide, please. So we went ahead and we are offering a grant program in total of $500,000, which was authorized by Bellevue City Council to support our rent relief program. It's open to small businesses and arts nonprofits, which are located in Bellevue. And the intent is really to pay down a small businesses or an arts organization's rental arrears that they currently owe to their landlord. So many of these businesses have a significant chunk of back rent, and this grant will be used to pay down some of that amount. The amount of the grant is going to be between $2,500 and $15,000. It just depends on your level of eligibility, the size of your business, and the scale of the need. And it will also depend a bit on how many applications we receive as well, the total amount of funding which is awarded to each organization. Next slide, please. Here are a few of the key eligibility requirements. So you have to be a small business or an arts-specific nonprofit organization. These are determined by your NAICS code, which is just your classification code of what type of business you operate. You must have been in possession of a Bellevue business license on or before March 1st, 2020, so just pre-pandemic. This is just to ensure that we're helping businesses that really were most impacted by the pandemic, the ones that started before the pandemic. You have to employ 2 to 25 employees, excuse me, or full-time employee equivalent if you have part-time employees, and have a gross annual revenue under $5 million. This is really to get at, we really want to be helping businesses that support jobs in the economy and small businesses, so not big businesses that have a significant amount of revenue. You have to have back rent or lease arrears due to the pandemic and any of the ensuing public health restrictions. So if you were impacted by the closures and you have back rent as a result of that, you would be eligible. You need to be in good standing with Bellevue on any of your taxes or other fees and service charges. And you must not have been past due on your rent on March 1st, 2020. So you need to have been current when the pandemic began on your rent. Next slide, please. So the application process is entirely online. You'll be able to fill out your application online at bellevuewa.gov/bizresources, BIZ resources. And the application is just at the top of the page there. So just hit the apply button and you can get started. It's a one-page application, so it's fairly straightforward. It's just a SurveyMonkey form, and you'll need to upload some documents, which I'll go over in a second. But the key thing is that the application deadline is Sunday, October 10th. That's this Sunday at midnight. So if you can get your applications in no later than 11:59 on Sunday, that would be fantastic. And then we're hoping to have a pretty quick turnaround. So we'll be notifying successful applications by the following Monday, that October 18th. So not the Monday immediately after the application, but 1 week after that. And we're going to do a random selection based off of funding availability, and it will be through a lottery process. We'll be giving priority to businesses that are in the hardest hit sectors, so personal services, health and wellness, and the creative economy. However, if you're not in those sectors and you are otherwise eligible, highly encourage you to apply regardless. We don't know how many applications we're going to get in those priority sectors, so all businesses are eligible. And then the last thing I'll mention is when you do go to submit your application, it is important that you have all of the documents that you need to upload ready to go before you go to submit. So you may want to take a peek at all of the documents that are required. The key thing is we will require you to upload a budget, your annual financials, just to prove that you're under $5 million in revenue. So that's the key document that you really want to have ready to go before you open your application. We do have assistance in multiple languages through Business Impact Northwest. You can get that assistance at startup425.org, startup425, the number 425.org, and you can submit your questions directly to us, again, either in the chat here, or you can email them later on to bizsupport, B-I-Z support at bellevuewa.gov, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. Just be aware that, of course, with the deadline approaching, best to get your questions in as soon as possible, just so that we have time to answer them and make sure that you can get your application submitted in time. So with that, I believe that is all I have to share with you. I'll turn it back over to Christina.
The site, oneeastside.org/spark. There you're going to find key resources, information on our one-on-one advising, our weekly webinars, grant opportunities as these become available. So all the stuff you heard here today will be up on that website or that portal as well. All right, I want to say a big thank you to all of you for participating today. We know you're all very busy, and thank you to all those who are listening later. All right, until we see you again, this concludes our webinar for today. Thank you.